come out and they end up right back in prison. And usually that happens because the individual ends up relapsing to criminal or addictive behavior. It allowed me to birth my purpose, my mission, my movement, which is Made Up North, which ultimately allowed me to change my life for the better. Coming from someone who experienced that not once and twice, that's not what I saw. I saw the complete opposite. What I saw was abuse, mistreatment, and judgment. Freedom is not just about being out. It's about what you do with it. So off the count and making it count is not about I'm free and I'm making it count because I have my freedom now. It's about the things that you doing out here, focusing on sharing stories of resilience, redemption, and overcoming adversity, because your story can in fact help the next brother or sister coming home avoid reoffending. Real change demands action. You can't just say you want to change. You have to act on it. And that's how I structure this book. Your mindset that you're telling yourself you change, you need to stay focused, you need to stay disciplined, and you need to stay patient. Welcome to another powerful episode of the Off the Count podcast. I'm your host, Jason Abreu, founder of Made Up North, a movement built on freedom, redemption, and second chances. Today, I'm doing things a little different. I don't have a guest here sitting with me. Many of you have heard my story on podcasts, in interviews, in reels, in speaking engagements, but you never see me take the opportunity to sit down on my own platform and share with you why this movement exists, why it was created, and the full mission and purpose behind it. But before we dive into that, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone out there who has supported the movement and the mission since day one. To anyone who has ever shared any one of my videos, who has sent me a message, who's reached out, to anyone who has been able to connect me with someone to help me continue to push the movement, has connected me with opportunities, that have been nothing but great. I want to say thank you to all of you. You guys are the ones that keep me going, keep me motivated, and keep me just working towards everything that I got going on and everything that I'm working on towards the future. So to dive into why does Made Up North exist and why it was created, this whole movement was birthed during my second incarceration. You see, I went away to prison not once, but twice. I fell into the trap with thousands of individuals for yearly, which is recidivism. For those of you who might not know what recidivism in simple terms is when someone comes home from prison and ends up reoffending. They come out and they end up right back in prison. And usually that happens because the individual ends up relapsing to criminal or addictive behavior. And I always knew about this problem, this issue, recidivism. But during this second incarceration, this was the moment that everything changed for me. You see, I first went away in 2016, came back home 2019. I was out here for 18 months, and then I ended up reoffending. October 2nd, 2020, I got rearrested. And I was in Rikers for about 10, 11 months fighting my case. And shortly after, I had to go back upstate. I had to go back up north. So the first stop, when I went back up north in June of 2020 was Ulster County. When I got there, I remember seeing a few individuals that were incarcerated with me, on my first bid. I really ain't think much of it at the time, at the moment, but best believe it crossed my mind like, oh, wow, look, the same thing that happened to me happened to him. I'm back in prison and he came back. So the thought was already there, something already clicked in my mind. So I was there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I got put on a draft, to go to my destination where I was going to go do my bid. But before I reached my destination, we made a stop at Elmira Correctional Facility. And there we were picking up inmates and dropping off inmates during transfer to continue to my destination, which ended up being Wyoming Correctional Facility. But even right then and there, just being in Elmira for a couple of hours while we waited to transfer inmates, I saw more individuals that were incarcerated with me this first time. So now I'm really thinking about it. And I just keep telling myself, like, wow, man, this is crazy. Like, who would have thought? I came back, he came back, he came back. And I'm just seeing more and more faces that were with me during this first bit. So fast forward the tape when I end up getting to the prison where I was going to be doing my time at, which was Wyoming Correctional Facility. Again, they end up calling chow as I'm making my way down to the cafeteria. If you've been in Wyoming Correctional Facility, it's like if you're on the backside, it's a mile walk in order to get to the cafeteria, like a 20-minute walk. In that walk, in the midst of me walking to the cafeteria one day, during the walkway, I'm just noticing more and more individuals, that I was incarcerated the first time back in prison. And it was right there on that moment, still on the count during my second incarceration, which at the time I thought was the worst thing that happened to me. And come to see firsthand, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It allowed me to birth my purpose, my mission, my movement, which is Made Up North, which ultimately allowed me to change my life for the better. So, and I do want to say something with that. If there's anyone out there right now dealing with any situation and you questioning God and questioning yourself and you don't know like why these things are happening to you, listen, I want to tell you firsthand, and I'm speaking based on experience. Things don't happen to you. They happen for you. So right now, what you might be thinking in your head is the worst thing happening to you might be the best thing that could happen to you. When I was in Rikers, those 10 months fighting my case, I was devastated, broken mentally, physically, emotionally. I couldn't believe that I was back in prison. And I just kept asking God, why? Like, why me? Why me? And as I've been able to get deeper and deeper on this journey, I've been fully able to see and get full clarity why I had to go back to prison. Because had I not gone back to prison, none of this would have existed. My movement, my mission. And I'm proud to say the work that I do, I'm able to help and impact people on a daily basis. The messages that I receive from people is like, that's the fuel that really keeps me going. And that's the reminder, that this in fact is my purpose. So just to get back to the story of me being in Wyoming, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Don't count yourself out. But going back to Wyoming, so now I end up going back to my cube after I see, more individuals back in prison. And I told myself, wow, this is crazy, like recidivism. We're trained to believe all this time that prison is really meant to help us and really fully rehabilitate ourselves so we can come back out here and not reoffend and not go to prison and not go back to prison. That's what we're trained to believe. But coming from someone who experienced that not once and twice, that's not what I saw. I saw the complete opposite. What I saw was abuse, mistreatment, and judgment. So seeing all of this happening, seeing all these brothers coming back to prison, which the majority, of course, were minorities, Hispanics, African Americans, it was devastating. And to see a lot of these individuals from the area where I grew up at, in the inner cities, Uptown, Dykeman, Harlem, I'm like, I said to myself right then and there that day in my cube, like, yo, listen, this problem is serious. And people may know of it, but I don't feel it's properly addressed the way it should be addressed. It should be addressed. So I said, I'm going to create this movement, and this movement is going to focus on helping, those individuals that do come home from prison make a successful transition, avoid having to go back to prison, avoid that same trap that I fell into, along with thousands of other individuals, which is recidivism. Because like I said, we're trained to believe that prison is really meant to help us, but it's a broken system. And when you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics, that's not the case. Right now in New York City alone, the statistics for recidivism is a staggering 43% for 3 years. That means almost half of the individuals which are released from prison within those first 3 years of their release, they'll end up reoffending and going back, to prison. And that's my mission, breaking that cycle. And not only for individuals coming home from prison, but for the youth as well, helping them avoid ever step foot inside of prison. So all in all, the mission is simple behind Made Up North, yet very powerful. Breaking the cycle, helping individuals who come home from prison rebuild and transition successfully so they don't have to go back to prison, and reaching the youth before the prison can ever claim them. That's the mission. So it was back in that moment on the count that I was able to find my movement, which was established 2021 while I was in Wyoming Correctional Facility. Now, where do I get the off the count and making it count? Off the count and making it count is the model of the movement, which drives everything I do. You see, in prison, when you on the count, you're locked up. You're custody of the prison system, right? When you're off the count means freedom. And making it count are the daily choices that you make as an individual when you get back out here, in order to make sure you make it count. Whether it's being a better husband, being a better father, because this is the thing. Freedom is not just about being out. It's about what you do with it. So off the count and making it count is not about I'm free and I'm making it count because I have my freedom. Nah, it's about the things that you doing out here, the things that you doing to better yourself, to make sure that you don't go back to prison. Because the way I see it, every time we go back to prison, they keep up winning. They keep winning. They meaning the prosecutors, right? The judges, the CEOs, everyone keeps winning at the expense of our time, of your time, of my time. And that's the fight that I'm against, trying to help that. But here's the thing, it sounds good to say, I want to help this cause. I want to fight for this cause. But I told myself, I might have all the right intentions, but ultimately, it's my actions that's really going to help, address and really somewhat find some solutions to this problem. So, I busted out my notebook, which I still have to this day, where I would write down all my plans in my cube. And I said, these are some of the things that I'm going to create and build when I get home. One of the first things that came to mind automatically, I said, I want to create a podcast, which is this platform, Off the Count Podcast. I said, I want to create a podcast that's going to focus on being a voice for the voiceless. I say voice for the voiceless because many of us coming home from prison, we do feel like our voice has been quiet for many, many years. Certain things that we might have wanted to speak out on. And unfortunately, due to circumstances, being in prison, sometimes being scared to speak up because of the consequences that could come behind it, So I said, I'm going to create a platform to give an opportunity to all returning citizens to come share their stories. Not only share their story as a way to get whatever they want to get off their chest, but most importantly, focusing on sharing stories of resilience, redemption, and overcoming adversity. Because your story can, in fact, help the next brother or sister coming home avoid reoffending, which goes back to the whole mission behind Made Up North and Off the Count. So that's the whole purpose of this platform, having people come share their story of resilience, having people come share their story, to let the world know that not everyone that goes to prison is a bad person and that our past does not define us. If there's one thing I had the privilege of learning while I was incarcerated was meeting some of the smartest, good-hearted individuals. So basically, this platform is to serve for a lot of purposes, I just want to showcase all the positive things, all the positive work, that brothers and sisters coming home from prison have going on, with hopes of helping those coming home after us avoid that trap of recidivism. And the platform is not only open to people coming home from a physical prison, because there's a lot of us out here walking around on a daily that are living in a prison, daily, stuck with depression, mental health problems, addiction, bad relationships, bad jobs. So while you're stuck, technically you're on that count because you have no control over your life. So even at that, individuals who have been able to break free from those cycles and are now, in fact, free and testament to change, testament to transformation, this is what this platform is about, highlighting stories of growth, of change. So that was one of the things I wanted to get done. And by the graces of God, I was able to get done. I'm proud to say I have over a year successfully running this platform. Definitely stay tuned for a whole bunch of more episodes dropping soon. I'm also going to be focusing on doing a lot of solo more episodes. Me just dedicating topics to very important topics that's going around and breaking down chapters of the next project, which I'm going to get into right now, which I said I had to do. So after I wrote down that I wanted to go home and create this platform, this podcast, I said, I want to write a book, but not just any book, not a book about my life, a book which is going to be focused on being a blueprint. Like I said, I want to write a book, but not just any book, a blueprint, a step-by-step guide on how someone can come home and avoid going back. And these things that I'm going to speak about on these books are not going to be things that a teacher taught me, that someone else taught me. They're going to be real things that came from my lived experience, things that I was going to come home this second time around and really apply and make sure, that what I wrote in this book, my real stories, my real lessons, and the mindset shifts was 100% credible. And I'm living fact. If there's anyone out there who ever question if change is possible, this book right here is your proof. 15 chapters, short chapters, powerful chapters. It contains real stories, real lessons, and the mindset shifts that I had to apply. And each chapter comes with what I call a comeback challenge, a short practical exercise at the end of each chapter to get, you going and get you active, get you proactive, and actually get you working. Because as we know, real change demands action. You can't just say you want to change. You have to act on it. And that's how I structure this book. So I give you a real story, a real lesson. I let you know how I was able to apply it in my life to make sure I made that successful transition. And then, I have you apply it to your life, and I drop that exercise at the end of every chapter. I'm going to be breaking down the book, here and there, different chapters. You could definitely look forward for that. But yeah, that was one of my biggest things I wanted to get done, this book. And it was released a couple of months ago, which was very special for me, the release date, and very intentional. I released it on October 14th, 2025. And the reason for that was because that was the day I was released from parole. So I was already working on the book throughout the whole year. But the last time I had went to report with my parole officer, one of the last times around May, April, March of 2025, she had already given me the heads up, like in a couple of months, that my paperwork was gonna be put in. She checked the system, and the semi-release date was gonna be October 14th. So right then and there, I set that goal for myself. I said, listen, when I came home the first time, I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have no structure. Nobody gave me a handout with the things I needed to do to avoid not going back. So that's why I said when I walk out this second time, I'm going to leave something behind, which was this, for all the brothers and sisters that's coming home before me. And I'm proud, blessed, and grateful to say that I was able to successfully get that done and get it released. But I have to say that the whole development of this project was something very special and something that I'm going to cherish, for heart dearly. Just the experience itself, the whole planning, like it felt so good, to actually see myself take this idea that came to me and really be executing on the things that I said I was going to do. In the midst of me writing the book, though, I had also received the best news ever. My wife was pregnant. We were expecting, a beautiful baby girl, Jaylia, which in 2 months she'll be 1 year old. She'll be a year old. And the reason why that means so much to me, and I had just have to speak on it briefly, you know, how special that experience for me was and how hard, was because in the midst of that pregnancy, in the midst of us being so happy and excited to be expecting a beautiful baby girl, we had also received some devastating news from the doctors. They told us that there was a bit of uncertainty and they weren't clear if, in fact, our baby girl was actually going to pull through and that she was going to be born. They basically gave us like a 50-50 chance. It was crazy, like I remember going with my wife when she was like 21, 22 weeks pregnant, and them saying like, let's just hope that you can hold till you 24 weeks so at least the baby will have a chance of survival. So it's like hearing all of this, and then knowing that I have this project that I'm working on and how I already made a promise to myself that I had to come through and deliver this project by October 14th. It was an experience, I'm not gonna lie to you. And on top of that, I was working morning shifts at my job throughout that summer. So it was a lot going on, but it was something that I felt that I had to be done and it couldn't be delayed. And I'm glad to say, that I got it done. And the book, has just led to other things that I also had in my plans. You see, when I dropped the book, I had people, ask me all the time, like, "Oh, how many books you sold? What you expecting to? How much money you expecting to make?" And truthfully, honestly, it was never really about that. You know, I was always seeing the bigger picture. I said I want to deliver this project, and I want to make sure that this project has such an impact, an everlasting impact, that it just opens up the doors for me to do other things that I want to do. One of the things that I've been very vocal about is about going to Rikers and going to other facilities to actually share my stories, to give these brothers that are incarcerated hope, and show them that change is possible and that they too can also come back out here, get off that count, and really make it count. I've since been able to do that. I've also said I also wanted to create a curriculum, which I do want to implement inside the prison system, and I'm very confident that it should be happening soon. And that I wanted to create a youth prevention curriculum. As I mentioned with you guys earlier, the whole mission is breaking the cycle, not just with people coming home, but also with the youth. Right now, we living in a day and age where youth violence is at an all-time high. We definitely need more guidance, more individuals stepping up as leaders, and that's a big part of the work I'm currently doing. From the book, I was in fact able to successfully develop a youth curriculum, the off the count youth curriculum program, which not too long ago I had the opportunity to debut this 5 week pilot series, at Facing History High School, thanks to my good friend Chris, who connected me with the proper people over there. I went, set up a meeting. I told them, my idea, the whole purpose of the book. And just like I told you, when I met with the guidance over there, shout out to my guy, Gil, Elizabeth, forever grateful and blessed. Gil, Elizabeth, Chris, all you guys that actually, believed in me, believed in the work, believed in the mission, and most importantly, gave me the opportunity to bring the off the count youth prevention program to your school. I want to say thank you dearly. Truly grateful. Chris set up a meeting over there. I shared with them my plan, which was, told them this book is a blueprint for returning citizens coming home to help them avoid recidivism, right? And not go back. But here's the thing. The same tools that I wrote about in this book are the same tools that can be given to a young person to avoid ever going to prison. So, they seen the book, they read the book, they definitely complimented me on the work. They said it was a great book and they gave me the opportunity, and I'm proud to say I started this 5-week pilot series over there, and I successfully completed, and now it has been developed into a full 12-week program and 16-week program, and it is in fact offered in bilingual. So any DOE members out there, if you're looking to bring the off the count youth prevention program too, definitely let's stay, let's get connected. Next school year, I'm definitely looking to be in a lot of schools and just continue to be doing the good work. So that's basically the whole why. And of course, Made Up North. The name, how I came about that name, is because when the term up north is like synonymous with the word prison. When for those of us that have been locked up, we often hear sometimes some of our favorite rappers always, drop a bar here and there, up north, because when you get sentenced to go do your bid, that's where they ship you. All the way in west, you already know, all the way up north. Like I told you last time, first time I ended up going to Wyoming, then I went to Hale Creek, came back down to Lincoln. Second time when I went up, I went to Wyoming. That's like 10 hours all the way up north. So it was in this up there when I was all the way up there on the count that, that this whole movement was birthed, that I was truly able to find my purpose. I felt like me being there, seeing, the things that I saw and how it affected me, the effect it had on me, like mentally, emotionally. I felt it's like God wanted me to see this so I could really, see that this was my purpose, to come back out here and just pay it forward, man. And like I said, ever since I've been home, I've been doing nothing but the right thing, man. And I'm living proof that you could come home and you could win without having to ever compromise your freedom. I'll tell you firsthand, it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy, but everything will start changing when you start doing that internal work. When I went away the first time, I focused on the physical. The second time, I said I got to get right internally. Discipline. Those of you that follow me and see me, the videos I put on a daily, I speak and I preach discipline on a daily. And I had discipline the first time I came home, but I didn't have the full mindset to sustain that discipline and everything that came out with it. I didn't give myself time to actually evolve. I wasn't patient with myself. I wasn't patient with my comeback. I wasn't patient with my transition. I lost all focus. I spiraled out of control. And that's how, even going back to prison, that I was able to birth Made Up North off the count. I was also able to birth my daily mantra, which I live by on a daily, and you guys see me posted on the daily, is FDP, focus, discipline, patient. That right there to me are the three major components that you need in order to succeed and do whatever you want in life, And it's not like you could just apply one of them. That was my thing. The first time I came home, I thought I could wing it with one, and I failed, You need all three. It's like a tripod, you feel me? If you take a leg off, it's going to fall. You need all three to sustain your mindset that you're telling yourself you change. You need to stay focused, you need to stay disciplined, and you need to stay patient. I'm going to be dedicating a full episode, to that, because that's also one of the main chapters that's discussed here. So now that I kind of got into, how Made Up North came about, how I came up with the name, obviously I was up north, and this is where this movement, where I found my purpose, where it was birthed up north, Made Up North. And off the count of making it count, the model that drives everything behind it. So now that I kind of, explained to you the things that I said I was going to do, which was the platform, the book. From the book came the curriculum. I also have a coaching program. The coaching program was actually one of the first things that I did develop. And it wasn't actually until now, recently, that I've been able to focus on that. And I've been able to get it going with a very good friend of mine, my brother, which right now he's going on his 11th week and he's killing it. He's crushing it. Like, we set out a goal. He told me his goal, And it's all about like everything else. When you come home from prison, just applying yourself. I gave him the tools. I gave him the game. Every 4 weeks, I give him a different handout, things to follow. Yo, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But ultimately, big ups to him because he's the one putting in that work. He's the one that's pulling up to show up with me. So I say that to say this, especially for you guys coming home. You'll find good people that'll put you in good opportunities and get you in good rooms and put you in real good situations, but you got to be doing the work. Everything that I have going on for me, even if it's been somebody that has helped connect me or whatnot, ultimately I've had to do the work. Because here's the thing, nobody's going to take care of you like you. And I just want you, keep that in mind. But yeah, the coaching program, again, I'm big on results. It's not what you did, it's about what you're doing and what you're producing. And you can say you have this, X, Y, and Z. What are the results? Like I said, we just started week 11 right now, and my elite member has already practically surpassed his goals because he's been able to apply himself, which obviously shows you that the off-the-count coaching program does work. So that's another thing, that I also created and built. Moving forward, I have so much in the works for Made Up North off the count, and I'm just gonna keep going. I don't focus on, I just did this so I could stop. Nah, I'm not really, I don't know. It's like when I create something, I'm already thinking of something else. Cause like I said, words are good, and I know I could have all the good intentions. Like, yeah, I want to help people coming home from prison. Yeah, I want to help the youth, but it all goes down to what are you doing to help them? What are you producing? What resources are you bringing forward? And that's what I'm just continuing to do. Just recently, about a week or 2 weeks ago, I actually launched this campaign, right? Choose You campaign, FDP. The Choose You campaign, that's actually the main focus and purpose of my curriculum, is about getting the youth to actually choose themselves, in a moment of anger, in a moment of, to choose themselves in a moment of anger, in a moment where they might be making a decision that's going to cause them the whole life, just sometimes to someone might see this and just look at it as a bracelet. But I don't look at it as a bracelet. I look at it as a reminder, Just recently, my son's birthday, 16th birthday, I had the opportunity, to give a little speech to his friends, to my son for his birthday. Of course, I love my son. I love my kids. And I gave his friends, the bracelet. They were very happy about it. And it brought joy for me to see that. Because like I said, sometimes they just need a reminder. They might be caught up in a situation. It's just as simple as looking at their wrist to remind themselves, choose you. Don't get caught up in all the hype. Don't get caught up in what you're hearing in all the drill music out here. Don't get caught up into your big homie trying to send you on a drill to do something that he's not ready to do. Choose you. Choose your freedom. Choose your future. That's what this whole campaign is about. It just started, I just launched it. But if there's any educators out there, any guidance counselors, anybody that's in a position of influence and wants to collaborate and really try to push this forward, let's connect. I'm definitely gonna drop my info as I do in every episode, and that's something that I'm really looking to take worldwide. I'm also getting ready to do a very exclusive launch exclusively. I already have the Made Up North. I did a launch like a year ago, some hats, shirts. Thank you everyone, of course, who did support that. But now I'm doing a very limited drop, something real special, a off the count drop, Like I said, off the count and making it count, that's the model, That's what it's about. I'm also gonna be starting a challenge with that real soon, Just pulling up on people out there who actually came home and giving them the opportunity, to shine and show the world how they came home and showing the world what they doing now. Cause sadly, yeah, we do come out here after doing our time, right? And it's like we still gotta come out here and deal with the social stigmas, the labeling, the being blacklisted, the people looking at us differently because we went to prison. And that's what I really, that's a core mission with my platform, is pushing that out there. Not everyone that went to prison is a bad person. Because last time I checked, no one on this world is perfect. Everyone has made their mistakes. And I leave it at that. So those are the things that I have in the works. October, this coming October, the same way I released my book, October 14th, which was the day I got off of parole. This October marks 1 year that I've been off of parole. So you already know I'm working on something very big, something very big, something that's going to be here long after I leave. That's the whole goal behind that. And yeah, just continuing to work and push the movement on a daily. Like I said, in regards to the platform, you could definitely look forward to more and more episodes, especially other episodes of other kinds, like people who actually been able to overcome addiction, people who have been able to overcome mental health issues, people who battle with depression, all types of people who've been stuck and been on that count, whether physical, emotional, spiritual, mentally. You're going to be seeing a lot of those episodes. So before I leave, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who has supported the movement and the mission. I appreciate you dearly. Make sure you follow me, Made Up North NYC, and Off the Count Podcast on all social platforms to stay tuned for all the updates, everything I got going on. Stay tuned for the website that's dropping in a few weeks. Stay tuned for that limited drop that's dropping. And in a few weeks, when I do complete the code, with my elite member, I'm going to be opening up the coaching program, and I'm going to be willing to take on 10 people who are very serious about transforming their life, because the gym, the workout, the looking good, the physical, that's just the perks that comes with that. But the whole program is focused on getting you to change here. Because once you could change up here and master this up here, you become someone, excuse my language, who cannot be fucked with. You heard? There's nothing or no one that can tell you that you cannot do what you want to do once you build this up to where it needs to be built up. So with that being said, till next time, remember, freedom is not just about being out, it's what you do with it. Off the count and making it count. Peace.